AFR On Demand is brought to you by Breck Golf. Try Beaver Creek today, just 20 minutes from downtown Baton Rouge in the Zachary area. They've got a PGA Tour driving range, a short game practice area, 30 to 40-yard practice shots. It's a great place to chip and putt and practice if you don't have time for a full round. Book your tee time today, golf.breck.org, golf.breck.org.
Matt Moscona.
I'm very important.
After further review.
Say it one more time.
After further review with Matt Moscona.
And here we go.
Live from the Raising Cane studio.
Let's ride!
And off we go. Welcome aboard. Glad you're with us. It's AFR, presented by Decision Critical, concierge nursing in Baton Rouge and all over the state of Louisiana. We are not today in the Raising Cane studio. We're at a place where I guarantee you I've never worn a sport coat before, and at one point I actually had hair. We're at the journalism building here at LSU. The Manship School had a really awesome sports summit. Was thrilled to be a panelist earlier today, get to chat with the next generation of awesome media members from this great school. And doing the show here from the J Building. So if you're around LSU's campus, come on, pop in, man. It's open. We're sitting here in the Holiday Forum. Actually, hey, y'all cheer real quick. Cheer. Just cheer. Just proof that there are actually students here to watch me sit here for 3 hours and talk. God bless them. And we have a lot to talk about. The governor of the state is going to join us in 1 hour. And very much looking forward to this conversation because anytime LSU hires a coach or fires a coach, it's going to be major national news cycle dominant. I've been on the LSU beat for 19 years now. This is the third time this has happened where they fired a coach and have been looking for a coach. And obviously we've talked plenty over the start of this week about firing Brian Kelly and how surprising that was to many, how quickly that escalated. But once you get over the immediate reaction of firing the coach, the story continues to develop and evolve. And it generally becomes, okay, well, when it's in season, like now this is the third consecutive coach LSU has fired in season. They fired Les Miles 4 games in. They fired Ed Ogeron in season. Now they fired Brian Kelly in season. You have these dueling storylines for the remainder of the season. Well, you have a team that's still practicing and competing to finish their season, hopefully finish it strong. And you had an open date this week, but Frank Wilson had former players back today at practice. Jacob Hester and Matt Flynn, of course, our morning show and off the bench were part of that, which is very cool to see. And the guys are preparing to try to finish the season as strong as possible. But the other part of it is, which is maybe even more exciting, because if you fired a coach, generally your season's lost, is who's going to be next. And this has taken a massive 90-degree turn a day ago when Governor Jeff Landry was in the middle of a press conference, was asked about LSU's search and Scott Woodward specifically, and said in no uncertain terms that Scott Woodward's not going to make the decision. He's not going to hire the next LSU football coach. He spoke pretty candidly about not approving of the contract structure, gigantic contracts with guaranteed buyouts. He spoke openly about putting guardrails on agents. In all of these things, as I said 24 hours ago here, I agree with him. These are very good points on contract structure and incentive-based deals, kind of like what's happened in the NFL, where you have an incentive bonus structure. I agree very much on the guardrails, on agents, and having the NCAA put some definition behind that, because what's happened is where in the NFL and the CBA, you have 3% agent fees. I've spoken with agents who have told me absolute point blank, they're rather doing NIL deals now because they can get 20% commissions because there's no limit to what their agent fees can be. So yes, I mean, I think the governor made a lot of good points, but all of that was lost amid the seemingly, the very unorthodox way he went about discussing Scott Woodward, the athletic director, his future, who's going to make the hire. I mean, he referenced the president making the hire twice, which the president of the United States, not the president of the university, which is I think I'm fairly certain he was half joking, but still, this is a thing people will take very seriously. And it's been fascinating over these last 24 hours because I was on Feinbaum's show about an hour ago, and he asked me my thought on what the reaction has been. And the odd thing is, this is a very popular governor who was elected in a landslide and is still a very popular governor in the state. But you start messing with LSU football, man, and people are going to take a little bit of a different tact. And I think that's what's happened here, is it feels like, I'm not saying that my mentions on Twitter or email or text line are representative of the entire state, but there's certainly the people who are interacting with my show are people who care very deeply about their sports teams, which is why they're listening and interact with the show. But it feels like you have people that have turned on this to where the understanding, the perception is the governor being so outspoken is hurting LSU in its search for a new coach and potentially even a new athletic director. So the governor and I did speak earlier this morning off the record, and he has agreed to come on the show today. So he's going to come on at the top of hour 2, so about 53 minutes, straight up 4 o'clock Central Time. He'll be on the show today. But after we spoke, and obviously before he'll come on, he did pop on the McAfee Show. And, I think the biggest point of contention that he has is Brian Kelly's buyout, and ultimately who pays it. And it's something that he talked about yesterday in the press conference, and I took issue with him saying that he said the way he said in his press conference was that the taxpayers were going to have to foot the bill. Well, on the McAfee Show earlier today, Jeff Landry doubled down on those comments.
Listen, emphatically, I am not picking the coach. That is not my job. The only reason I'm really involved, Pat, is because this contract that currently is between the state of Louisiana, the Louisiana State University system, and Brian Kelly leaves the taxpayers of the state on the bill. There's misinformation out there. People are saying, oh, no, the taxpayers aren't liable. They're not reading the contract. On Sunday, I had a meeting with the lawyers as they were talking about whether or not Brian Kelly was terminated, whether they were going to fire him. And all I cared about were the taxpayers of our state. And that contract binds the state of Louisiana. If we have to pay $53 million and somebody else doesn't step up to foot that bill, the state of Louisiana has to foot that bill. That is in the contract.
So that is the key sticking point, is he's voicing it publicly. And you can argue in legalities, sure, the Board of Supervisors, which is a representative of LSU, engaged in the contract with Brian Kelly. However, listen, all I have is like AI and Google, all right? I don't know any other way to look up every contract that's ever been done in the history of contracts. But I actually asked a lot of sports attorneys today. I say a lot. I spoke to 3 sports attorneys today. And I used AI and Google. And I couldn't find a single example, not one, of a state and the taxpayers having to foot the bill for a coach's buyout. So, listen. My opinion, and I'm going to be very clear with this throughout all of these conversations when we talk about the firing, the buyout, the hiring of a new coach. I'm going to be very clear with you when I feel like when I am reporting something that I believe is newsworthy, and when I am giving you my opinion, okay? I'm giving you my opinion right now. This is just what I think, and I'm going to talk to the governor about this next hour. My opinion is that Jeff Landry desperately wants Scott Woodward out as LSU's athletic director. I don't even think that's a stretch. You basically heard him say it yesterday, and I think the buyout is the thing that he's able to use right now to say, I'm looking out for the state, and that's why I'm being so vocal and so active in this. And I don't know, because I could point and say, okay, Mr. Governor, there is no example ever of that any of us can find, realistically, where the taxpayers are footing the bill to pay the buyout. So LSU, through TAF, like it always does, will raise money and it'll pay the coach's buyout. And this won't fall on the taxpayers. What else is the problem? And all the other things that he talked about, I'm very much in agreement with. And it's all things that we can have conversations about. And I'm looking forward to having him here. And I actually want to allow him the opportunity to clarify there. But there's a lot of things that I think are procedural that I want answers to that we're going to get to when the governor joins us here in hour number 2. All right, it's after further review. Our show Open Every Day is brought to you by Bud Light. None of y'all here drink no Bud Light if you're not of age, all right? Well, I guess y'all are. Who's of age? Who can drink? Yeah? Okay, we got a couple. That's right. Got college students here. That's right. If you're college, you're 21. Drink delicious ice cold Bud Light, the official beer of AFR, the official beer of the LSU Tigers, the official beer of the New Orleans Saints. Saints are on the road. No LSU game this weekend. So I don't know. Maybe you're going to go belly up to the bar, watch some games this weekend. Maybe you're heading out to Boots on the Bayou out at Lamar Dixon. Make sure you drink plenty of delicious ice cold Bud Light, the official beer of the LSU Tigers and the official beer of AFR. All right, y'all, it is after further review. We're glad you're hanging out with us here. We are at LSU today at the Journalism Building. The Manship Sports Summit earlier today. Was thrilled to be a part of it. Small part of the panel earlier today. It's a great resource for the next generation of Manship graduates that'll be coming out of LSU. And thrilled to be here today to do the show here on site. So let me do this. We'll knock out a quick break. I want to come back to this topic and get a different perspective. So our buddy Ross Dellenger of Yahoo is going to jump aboard. Ross, of course, been covering this from a national perspective. So what has the national reaction been to Brian Kelly's firing, the comments the governor made a day ago, and how this might subsequently impact LSU's search for a new coach and potentially a new athletic director? All right, we'll talk about that with Ross Dellenger as we continue on a Thursday edition of AFR, presented by Decision Critical Concierge Nursing in Baton Rouge.
After further review.
Love telling you about our friends over at Clegg's Nursery. Hey, remember, this Saturday is the Baton Rouge Green Tree Spree. It's this Saturday, one day only at the Clegg's on Segan. So write it down. Remember, Baton Rouge Green is a great organization, an awesome civic organization that keeps our city looking beautiful. And so their arborists will be there. And so for every tree that's purchased, every Baton Rouge Green approved tree that's purchased on Saturday at Clegg's, Clegg's will make a donation to the Baton Rouge Green Foundation. So again, if you want to learn more, you can go to Clegg's Facebook, go to their website. But again, it's this Saturday, 9 a.m. to noon. 8 a.m. to noon. They can start early. This Saturday, 8 a.m. to noon. Only at the Clegg's on Segan. It's the Baton Rouge Green Tree Spree, only at Clegg's Nursery, with 4 locations in the greater Baton Rouge area. Buy local, shop local. Tell them Matt sent you into Clegg's Nursery.
After further review with Matt Moscona, presented by Decision Critical Concierge Nursing. Healthcare for your lifestyle. Learn more at decisioncriticalvr.com.
LSU Governor Jeff Landry, his comments on Wednesday have sort of taken over the college football world. It's leading almost everywhere. Our buddy Ross Dellenger, now with Yahoo, good enough to join us, give us a little bit of the national perspective. Delly, how are you, man?
Good, Matt. How you doing?
Busy, as you know and understand. But let's just start with the big picture, 10,000-foot view. What seems to be the national reaction to not only Brian Kelly's firing, but what happened here in the last 24 hours with the governor?
Yeah, I would say, from a national perspective, there's a lot of shell-shocked. There's a lot of disbelief, I think, from people. I literally, during the news conference on Wednesday, I literally got texts from people who were seeing the comments or watching the videos asking me if it was a fake. They thought it was a scripted, like some kind of SNL type of skit. Yeah. And I told them to no, this was very real, and you should come spend a few months or so in South Louisiana, and you'll realize that it's very real, and that's just how it is. So that was the first reaction nationally. And then there was the other reaction, Matt, which is from probably, I would say, the 3 to 5 biggest sports agents who represent coaches in the country, who weighed in with what you'd expect, with the reaction of, do they realize how negative this is impacting the candidate pool. Right now in college football is probably the most time where you need the most alignment between board, university president, athletic director, football coach, general manager. You need alignment, you need resources, all of that. And I think that's sort of, especially the alignment piece, is in question now at LSU from probably a lot of candidates. And look, LSU is still a phenomenal job with incredible resources, and they've proven that, having 3 coaches each win a national title, 3 different coaches in a 17-season span. But if you're a coach, sort of like, let's throw out Lane Kiffin, and you have a really good job right now, and you're going to probably get a really big, good contract that's going to be guaranteed, and you have other schools courting you who's going to give you where alignment is better, or is going to give you a long-term security of a contract. I think there's a debate to be made, an argument to be made that LSU is hurting itself, in those sort of decisions for coaches.
Ross, can you elaborate a little bit on, to whatever degree you can, what those conversations are like with agents, from the sense that, look, if LSU is still willing to pay, like, agents are going to have clients that are interested. But if you could maybe just elaborate a little bit there on the reaction from the agent world.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that agents, again, want to see when they sort of put out there, present to a coach, because this is what usually happens, right? You have an agent, he's in between the coach and the school that's sort of courting the coach, and there's communication between both sides, and the agent has to be the one that presents all the information to the coach, and that's about not just contract stuff, but other decisions around alignment around the university. And I should say, as part of this conversation, is at the center sort of the conversation should be Trace Armstrong. He's the agent for Brian Kelly. He's also, Matt, the agent for probably a dozen or more sitting college FBS head coaches, along with several more coordinators and assistants and G5 head coaches. So Trace is dealing with a situation right now, apparently, with Brian Kelly's buyout, of where the school, whether it's because the governor or the board or whoever, is insistent, right, that they not pay the full fare, the full $53 million. So you can imagine the situation if Trace is recommending or not recommending jobs to his clients, how that may impact, how this situation may impact that, right? And then you've got the biggest agent, Jimmy Sexton, who has probably most of the coaches in the SEC, and most of the coaches, including Lane Kiffin, that LSU would probably have its eye on, right? And more than anybody that I've sort of been around and heard from, Jimmy is not a stupid guy, right? He's made a lot of money and has a lot of big clients for a reason, and that's putting his coaches in places where they can succeed through whatever resources and, again, alignment. And let me just tell you, all those guys I just mentioned, they were paying attention yesterday to the news conference.
Ross Dellenger's with us. Ross, to whatever degree you know, how is Scott Woodward perceived nationally?
I think a few different ways. Obviously, it's going to depend on the person, right? But I think there's probably two main thoughts when you poll people or talk to people around the country, whether you're talking to coaches, administrators, commissioners, agents, about Scott Woodward. One is the guy hires big name coaches who usually win, right? He's very successul hires. Chris Peterson at Washington was one of the more successful sort of hires in getting him there from Boise State in the last 15 years of college football. If you look at Chris Peterson's record, I think this year he's up for the Hall of Fame. You look at Jimbo Fisher, and look, I mean, I know Jimbo was fired at the end, At one point, he went 9-1 and was one game away from the SEC championship and potentially the national title. And then, obviously, what Scott did at LSU, he hired Jay Johnson, won a baseball championship. Kim Mulkey won a women's basketball championship. And Brian Kelly probably didn't work out as they wanted. But also, Brian Kelly won 34 games in 3.5 years. So it's not like It's not like LSU was sitting at 1-7. When Brian Kelly was fired. So I think from a national perspective, he's thought of as going to get the big shot, the big name who usually wins. There's another part, Matt, and I think that's the money part. I think Scott is known, especially among his colleagues, as somebody who pushes the envelope and pushes them and escalates salaries around the country because of the contracts that he executes. And now we're seeing, obviously, a local politician there, the top elected politician in the state of Louisiana, also have a problem with that.
So, which is a great segue, because I wanted to ask if you feel it's possible to negotiate a contract for the next LSU coach that is sort of as the governor recommended, right? Incentive laden, maybe backloaded, bonus oriented or structured. Is it possible, Ross, to offer that kind of a contract and attract a top candidate?
Well, that's a great question. I'll take off my unbiased reporter hat and put on my opinion hat. This is a great idea, right? This should be going forward. The idea that all athletic directors have is a shorter contract for coaches, 4 or 5 years, maybe even less, with a lower guaranteed salary, but with higher incentives. If you reach this and that, your salary will climb. This is not, completely unusual either, Matt. We saw LSU do this deal with Ed Orgeron. When they hired him from interim to head coach, he had this incentive-laden deal. It was low. I can't remember what it was. It was like $3.5 million salary, $4 million salary, which was very low at the time in the SEC. But he could get up to $7-8 million if you reached all these things. And that's what does need to happen going forward. Here's the problem. Not everybody's doing that. And so when your competition for a coach isn't doing that, you're going to have a problem getting quality candidates, because the market right now is the market. And but I think it's a great idea, and we've actually saw it, Matt. I'll say we saw it this past year, or 2 years ago, I should say. Mike Elko was hired at Texas A&M under a contract that is very heavy incentive laden. I think he makes around $7 million a year, but he can get up to $12, $13 million a year if he hits all these incentives. So we have seen some of that. Now, here's the funny part. Mike Elko is probably getting a new contract this year because they're on a roll, right? And his contract will be $10+ million. It'll be fully guaranteed. It won't be incentive based. And that's the problem, is that everybody's not going to follow suit with this contract structure that the governor is referring to.
And the interesting thing is, you say Elko's earned now the big contract, right? But you're ultimately going to tether yourself to a giant contract. So it feels a bit unavoidable. All right, last thing for you, and Ross Dellenger's our guest, Yahoo Sports. By the way, he's got an amazing piece up right now, a giant feature about what all transpired starting from the end of the A&M game Saturday all the way through what's been a topsy-turvy week. So go read it at Yahoo right now. I retweeted it a bit ago. It's very clear that the athletic director right now does not have the support of the governor. There's a bit of unrest, obviously, because they're about to hire a new university president. So how much does the instability with that AD spot impact this coaching search?
Probably not as much, Matt, as it used to. I think the coaches have gotten so big in college football. They're paid so much. They have, just big names, right? And they just they've kind of superseded their athletic director, right? They're the more important person. There's a lot of coaches that don't work for the athletic director, right? The athletic director works for the coach. So these days, it's not probably as quite important, but you can bet, and we've started to see this, by the way, and I believe it was in Brian Kelly's contract, that if an AD, if something happens with the AD, whether they're fired or whatever, a new hire's made, that gets worked into a coach's contract, and is sort of one of those clauses where a coach can get out of the contract easier. So look for that to be a point during this negotiation, whoever the new coach might be, look for that to be a point of contention. But I'll go back to the alignment. I think every coach to a degree, especially this time and age where we're in this era of athlete compensation and rev share, where you need so many resources and finances, need as much as possible. You need alignment. You want alignment from the university president to the board to the AD. And although LSU's hiring the president just next week, I know they don't have a president right now.
Yeah.
The board, is the board, and right, it gets very political there. And obviously the governor's involved with the board, and the AD was just eviscerated publicly by the governor. So the alignment is not the best right now,
to say the least. At Ross Dellenger is where you can get him on Twitter, X. Go read his feature. It's fantastic. It's up right now. Great work as always. We appreciate the time. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt.
All right, be well. That's Ross Dellenger. It's After Further Review, presented by Decision Critical Concierge Nursing in Baton Rouge and all over the state. It's not just healthcare; it's healthcare for your lifestyle. DecisionCriticalBR.com. DecisionCriticalBR.com. We're here at the LSU Manship School of Mass Communication at the Journalism Building. Actually, Tiger Stadium is just behind me. If you're watching, if we could just open up that wall, you'd see Tiger Stadium. That'd be cool. I don't think we can open the wall though. There are windows though. I put the windows up, Alondra? No, would it just with the light? Yeah, it was all right. Fair enough. Okay. All right, it's After Further Review. We do have Governor Jeff Landry joining us in 30 minutes from right now. Not got a break. We'll go around the SEC when we continue. Don't you move. It's AFR.
AFR.
We're brought to you by Goodwood Med Sexual Wellness. Visit yourgoodwood.com, yourgoodwood.com. We talk all the time about things like hormone replacement therapy, which can be life-changing. As we age, literally every human, all of us, as we age, our bodies produce less of the hormones that contribute to how we feel. Waking energy, metabolism, the ability to build muscle, burn fat. And a lot of that libido, a lot of that contributes to how we feel every day of our lives. And you can safely, affordably supplement yourself to get to healthy levels to feel like your younger self again. It starts with a simple blood test. Go in, they'll draw your blood labs, they'll know instantly exactly where you're deficient, how to safely, affordably supplement you to get you to healthy levels, get you feeling your best again, because you don't know how bad you feel until you start feeling good again. Check them out online at yourgoodwood.com. That's yourgoodwood.com.
After Further Review with Matt Moscona, presented by Decision Critical Concierge Nursing. Healthcare for your lifestyle. Learn more at DecisionCriticalBR.com.
We are going to talk to Mike Triplett coming up in hour 3. I know so much of the focus has been on everything going on around LSU. Kellen Moore did meet with reporters on Wednesday after practice. We barely had any time to talk Saints a day ago, but as Kellen Moore said, Tyler Shough will start this Sunday, his first start at the Rams, and more. This is to Muse, if we could, on why Tyler Shough ultimately was the choice to start this week in LA.
Just felt like, there was an opportunity where Tyler, I felt like, was ready. Felt like, at the end of the day, one of the more important aspects of this from a wider lens perspective is offensively, we got to find a little bit more success, a little bit more consistency. I think that doesn't have only to do with Spencer. That has to do with everyone associated with the offense. And so we're continuing to build that and grow each and every week. And, I think Tyler's ready to go. He's prepared really, really well through this whole process. Patience sometimes is you got to play that game a little bit. And, he's ready to go.
I think Rattler likely would have continued to be the choice until the turnovers became a problem. 4 turnovers a couple of games ago, and then, of course, on Sunday, the ugly pick six, the fumble when the Saints were driving. And some of those are great defensive plays, but those are the things when you're not a good football team that you got to be able to avoid. And, look, we'll talk more about Saints and Rams as we get closer to the game on Sunday. I hope everyone tempers expectations, because I don't think it's realistic to assume that inserting Tyler Shough all of a sudden is going to dramatically reduce the results of this season. We were looking at the betting odds yesterday for win totals. So coming into this season, the Saints over-under was 4.5. Through the first handful of weeks of the season, it was lowered to 3.5. It's still at 3.5. So it's not like inserting Tyler Shough in the lineup is expected. Anyone is expecting this to be a dramatic improvement on the season. I mean, they are what they are. I mean, you still have a backup center now in Luke Fortner. Your best offensive lineman, Eric McCoy, is out. You've not had a lot of success with your receivers, notably Chris Olave, who's former first-round pick. And, I think Shaheed could certainly be a tradable asset as well, who come Tuesday could no longer be a part of this team. So if you've got already, you're missing your best offensive lineman, and now you're going to be void potentially of some of your top weapons, what is realistic to assume? I think what I'm looking for is protect the football, manage the game, maybe make some throws, prove that you can make the right, good decisions with the football. I know those things sound sort of nondescript, but I just think to expect Tyler Shough to go in there and win games with this team is not realistic. I mean, you're one of the worst defenses in the NFL. I mean, you're 24th in scoring defense, and your scoring offense is 29th. There's only 3 teams that score less than you do per game. So, and now you got to go on the road to the Rams against that defense. I mean, good luck. So we'll see how he holds up and how it all plays out. But it'll be a first opportunity to get a look at Tyler Shough. All right, it's After Further Review. Always love telling you about Evamore, EVAMOR, Evamore.com. Of course, a great local company. It's a Louisiana product. It's natural artesian water. It's bottled right there on the North Shore. The bottling plant is actually built right around the well. I mean, it's a natural artesian well. They pipe down into the ground, pull out the water. It's filtered just to get the sediment from the ground out. It goes right into the bottle. It never touches air until you uncap it, take that first delicious sip. It's Evamore. You want a better form of hydration, a healthier alternative for your family. EVAMOR, Evamore.com. You can find it at great local retailers or online at Evamore.com. EVAMOR, Evamore.com. All right, Musso, handing it off to you around the SEC. Hit it.
Around the SEC, bringing you the biggest news from the nation's best conference. The Auburn Tigers.
Hugh Freeze, when he met with the media after Thursday's practice, expressed a lot of optimism when talking about wide receiver Cam Coleman and wide receiver Malcolm Simmons and their status for this week's game against Kentucky. Coleman dealing with an ankle. Simmons has a knee. We'll start with Coleman. Freeze says the practice usage is not 100%, but he is trending towards playing on Saturday night against the Wildcats. Simmons' name popped up pretty surprisingly on Wednesday's availability report with that knee injury, but it was a hyperextension, and Hugh Freeze's quote is, he looked pretty decent today too. So both expected to play this Saturday against Kentucky.
The Georgia Bulldogs.
4 Georgia Bulldogs have been ruled out on their injury report for the game against Florida. They are Colby Young, Taylon Taylor, Ethan Barber, and Kyron Jones. Jones and Taylor really the ones to look at. We'll start with Kyron Jones. He started 6 games this season, the first 6 games before being hurt prior to the Ole Miss game. He was expected to be on the mend, not back yet. Taylor, we talked about a couple days ago, appeared in the first 4 games of the season, suffered the upper body injury during practice and missed the Kentucky game. The good news for Georgia is center Malachi Tolliver and receiver Thomas Blackshear, who were ruled out for the Ole Miss game, are no longer listed on the availability report. They will play in the cocktail party on Saturday.
The Ole Miss Rebels.
Ole Miss starting cornerback Antonio Kite listed as questionable on the initial injury report. Injury not disclosed by Lane Kiffin. Kite has started all 8 of Ole Miss games this season, 21 tackles and 3 PBUs. He's in his first season in Oxford after transferring in from Auburn during the spring portal window.
The Tennessee Volunteers.
And a shakeup to Tennessee's 2026 recruiting class. Linebacker Braylon Outlaw, great name, has officially decommitted from Tennessee. This follows an official visit to Georgia Tech a weekend ago. 6 foot, 218 pounds. Outlaw had been committed to the Vols since November the 8th of last year, obviously. And I was one of 3 linebacker commits in the 2026 class. They now have 2 of those left and 23 left for the class of 2026 as a whole. That is around the SEC.
Glad to have you hanging out with us here. We are on LSU's campus at the journalism building here at the Manship School and excited to be hanging out. We do have the governor joining us in 18 minutes from right now. We're looking forward to that conversation. Every Thursday, we do our Fantasy Blitz. I regret to inform you, however, that my text line has been temporarily disabled. So if you want to get your questions in, you can do it. You're just going to have to email me or tweet me. Again, regrettably, not really pumped about it. But anyway, email me, matt@1045espn.com, M-A-T-T, matt@1045espn.com, or tweet me at Matt Moscona. And quite honestly, I would like to see something else in my Twitter feed other than people complaining about the governor's comments, because that's basically just polluted my Twitter feed for 24 hours. So, yeah, tweet me at Matt Moscona, your fantasy football questions. We'll get to them here when we come back with Darren Teakin for our Fantasy Blitz. Stick around here on a Thursday edition of AFR, presented by Decision Critical, Concierge Nursing in Baton Rouge.
AFR.
AFR is brought to you by River City's 1 Hour Air, where they're always on time, or you don't pay a dime. 752-0001, 752-0001, 752-0001, or 1hourbr.com. Spell it out, O-N-E, 1hourbr.com. Woke up today, feels like was 44 degrees. Crank on your heater yet? Don't lie to me. Did you crank on your heater yet? All right, if you did, and you have not yet had your heater safety check, what are you doing? Time is now. Call River City's 1 Hour Air. They'll send the technician out. They'll make sure your heater is clean, it's tuned up, it's running efficiently, and most importantly, that it's running safely for the coming cold weather months. Look, that heater is dormant for months. It can collect dust. It can be hazardous. Make sure it is safe to run. Protect your home. Protect your family. Let River City's 1 Hour Air come by for the preseason heater safety check. Mention the show. They'll knock $30 off the price. 752-0001.
After further review with Matt Moscona, presented by Decision Critical Concierge Nursing. Healthcare for your lifestyle. Learn more at decisioncriticalbr.com. After further review, this is the Fantasy Football Blitz.
Do you know who I am?
Powered by whotostart.net.
Who the hell are you?
Whotostart.net. The Fantasy Football Blitz.
Who the bitten?
This is the Fantasy Football Blitz. Powered by whotostart.net.
Who are you?
All right, wrapping up hour number 1. We're glad you're hanging out with us here. It is a Thursday edition of AFR presented by Decision Critical Concierge Nursing in Baton Rouge and all over the state of Louisiana. Before you set your fantasy football roster, we always encourage you to check with our guys at whotostart.net. Our buddy Darren Teakin, good enough to join us here. Yo, man, how are you?
I'm doing good. Ready for another week of football.
All right, man. As always, let's start with tonight. Baltimore, Miami. I guess Lamar's back. What are we looking at for tonight?
Yeah, that was going to be the first name off my lips. There would be Lamar as full participant in practice. He should be running all over those Dolphins. We're looking at the wide receivers. Zay Flowers and Jalen Waddle should have good games for their respective teams, as well as both running backs Derrick Henry, of course, and Devon Achane for the Dolphins, especially in PPR formats. And then also something we're kind of tracking is possible changing of the guard at tight end for the Ravens. Looks like Isaiah Likely's been running some more routes than Mark Andrews. So look for Likely, now that he's healthy, to become an every week type of tight end.
All right, Darren, we always ask about sleepers as well. Who are you looking at this week?
Yeah, I got a couple for you. This is, kind of the time where running backs start to kind of hit the wall and some of them get injured. So one guy we're looking at is Kyle, and I'm probably mispronouncing his last name, but Guy from the Bears.
Nailed it.
DeAndre has been a little banged up, and they face a terrible Bengals run defense. So even if it's a blowout or if it's a close game, we think that DeAndre Swift is going to cede some carries to Monagai. So that could be a decent flex play for you. And then at wide receiver, Chimere Dike for the Titans. The Titans' offense is pretty terrible, but somebody has to catch the ball, and Calvin Ridley's been hurt. So if you're in desperate need of a flex or a fourth or third wide receiver, Chimere Dike is a deeper sleeper for you there this week.
All right. You can always get your questions in. You can email us, tweet us. I normally say text us, but the text line is temporarily disabled. So email me or tweet me. Email me, Matt@1045ESPN.com, or tweet at Matt Moscona. Good luck with the vowels. Moscona at Matt Moscona on Twitter. All right. We got some of our students here who've gotten questions on site. Here we go. Montgomery or Dobbins? Who to start?
I think Montgomery is a safer play. I think both Ryan running backs are in the end zone this week, so I like Montgomery just a little bit more than Dobbins.
Debo or McLaurin? Who to start?
I think McLaurin's out this week, so you don't want to get to zero. So I think I'd go the other way.
Way to go, Alondra. Terrible question. Olave or Brian Thomas Jr. Who to start?
That's a tough one. Obviously, with the changing quarterback, you want to see how Olave does with the new person throwing to him. So I would probably put Olave on the bench until we see what happens there.
That's probably a good idea. Let's see. Donovan on email said, Darren, need one of these three. He's got A.J. Brown with A.J. Brown on buys. Is Kendrick Bourne, Matthew Golden, or Jalen Noel?
Oh, boy. Let's go with the Noel. It's a dice roll, but if Nico Collins is out again, boy, that's a tough one. I think the Noel is the deep sleeper there.
Ben via email said who to start. He's got Matthew Stafford or C.J. Stroud.
I think Stafford's probably your play. Coming off a bye, had a chance to rest up a little bit and throw to Puka Nacua, who looks like he should be healthy, and Devontae Adams, of course, is a great secondary receiver for the Rams. I think Stafford's the play there.
Darren Teakin, who2start.net, the numeral 2, who2start.net. Kareem Hunt or Rico Dowdle, who to start?
I think I'm playing Dowdle. It looks like Hunt comes in and kind of mops up the leftovers, if you will, but a little bit dangerous to play when you have Pacheco there as well. So Dowdle looks like the better running back for the Panthers, and Hubbard will get some carries, but I think Dowdle gets you enough and probably scores a touchdown this week.
Sneak in a few more here. T. Higgins or George Pickens, who to start?
I like the Dallas offense. I mean, Higgins might be having the third quarterback throw to him, Jake Browning, which would be terrible for his prospects. So I think you're going Pickens there, just a better offense and a better quarterback throwing on the ball.
And let's see, A.J. Barner or Noah Fant, who to start?
I think I'm going Fant there. I mean, those are some deeper tight ends. So if you can't find somebody with a better matchup, I think Fant is probably, the better dice roll.
He's Darren Teakin, who2start.net. It's the numeral 2, who2start.net. Before you set your fantasy football roster, check with our guys at who2start.net. Remember, use the code ESPN. You get 10% off. All right, Darren, we always appreciate it, man. Enjoy your football weekend.
You do the same. Thanks, Matt.
I appreciate it much. We're always brought to you by Supper Club. SupperClubBTR.com is where you can go to get your reservations. Man, I'm going to tell you what an awesome way to start off the weekend early. I was texting with Chef Layton just yesterday. And I always tell you, man, people, Supper Club, of course, for the great ambiance, for their amazing steaks, the Japanese omi beef, the Sagrera cuts that they have. But Chef Layton texted me yesterday. He said they just got stone crabs back in. These are jumbo stone crabs. They're super fresh. They buy directly from the fishermen. So there's no middlemen. They get them directly from the fishermen. So, these are stone crabs that were in the water yesterday, and today they're on the menu at Supper Club, right there on Perkins Road, SupperClubBTR.com. We're getting close to Christmas, holiday parties. You want to have that gathering, make sure you reserve your space at Supper Club. SupperClubBTR.com, SupperClubBTR.com. All right, it is After Further Review. We're glad you're with us. Governor Jeff Landry is going to be with us in about 6 minutes from right now. I was hoping to have the governor in person. He will be on the phone as he's not in Baton Rouge today, but we'll look to have him in studio sometime soon. It's been obviously a massive talking point and conversation all across the sports landscape over the last 24 hours. The comments the governor made at his press conference, and I know there's things that I'd love to clarify and ask, and we'll get to that coming up here right after the top of the hour. And certainly when you look at some of the things that are notable are, for the governor to talk about, not doing a contract in the same light as the one for Brian Kelly. Okay. If you're not going to do the $100 million fully guaranteed deal, okay. Well, what does that contract structure look like? Will the governor have a role in hiring the coach? He said he's not going to pick the coach. Will he have a role? One of the things he said in that press conference a day ago was they'd put together a committee to select the coach. If it's not going to be Scott Woodward, okay, well, who are the members of that committee? I mean, some of those things I think are absolutely imperative to know throughout this very important decision, as LSU and the boosters that will contribute will spend north of $50 million to buy out Brian Kelly and ultimately hire a new coach. So the governor, Jeff Landry, will be this coming up right after SportsCenter on AFR.
AFR.
Brought to you by Rouse's, the official supermarket of the New Orleans Saints. Rouse's.com, Rouse's.com. Hey, by the way, today in, let's see, it's 3:55, 2 hours and 5 minutes, right when we get off the air, Harold Perkins Jr. is going to be at the Rouse's on Burbank from 6 to 7 p.m., signing autographs in conjunction with Dr. Pepper. So what an awesome opportunity as the Tigers were back on the practice field earlier today in their bye week. Of course, they'll have the weekend off, but great opportunity to get on by, meet number 7, get an autograph, maybe take your kids by. What a great opportunity for them to get to meet a larger-than-life personality, guy who will be in the NFL next year, and it's all courtesy of our friends over at Rouse's. So, again, coming up here in just a few hours from 6 to 7 p.m. for 1 hour, Harold Perkins will be taking pictures and signing autographs on behalf of Dr. Pepper at the Rouse's at the corner of Burbank and Lee. And, of course, as the weekend is here, remember, you can go make your groceries, get all your beers, your bourbons, whatever you're looking for at Rouse's. Rouse's.com. Rouse's, this feels like home.